You ever look into someone's eyes and just know they don't recognize you? A woman swears the girl who came back from summer camp looks exactly like her daughter, but something inside her is off. And if you believe the folks up in the Catskills, this isn't the first time a kid came back wrong. I wouldn't be telling you this if I hadn't seen her with my own eyes. A co-worker of mine, Derek, used to clean maintenance equipment in the lower building. Quiet guy, didn't talk much. One day he said something while we were fixing a generator that stopped me cold. He said, "You ever hear about the Monroe girl?" I didn't know what he meant, but he didn't explain, just muttered something about her eyes not blinking right, and went back to scrubbing grease off the fan blades. That night, I looked it up, and it led me down a rabbit hole I wish I hadn't crawled into. The Monroe girl, her name was Abby, was 10 when she went to Camp Wren Hollow, a rustic little camp tucked deep in the Catskills, not far from Hunter Mountain. The kind of camp where you have to walk half a mile from the parking lot just to reach the cabins, and they make a big deal about no Wi-Fi or cell service. Parents thought it was wholesome, clean air, nature hikes, campfire songs, the usual. Except Abby's mother, Dana Monroe, says the kid who came back wasn't Abby. According to the threads I found, Dana noticed it right away. Not just in her daughter's face, which was clean, healthy, flawless even, but in the way she moved. Walked like she'd been trained. Sat up perfectly straight at the dinner table without being told. Chewed with her mouth closed. Said please and thank you with the kind of robotic politeness that made her skin crawl. That first night back home, Dana swears she stood outside Abby's bedroom door and listened to her daughter humming softly to herself. Not any song Dana recognized. It sounded tuneless, circular, as if the girl were humming to something instead of just passing time. And that's when she saw it. A shadow, no, more like a shape, pass across the window. Not outside, inside the room. Dana burst in, expecting to find an intruder. But Abby was already in bed, under the covers, smiling at her. Eyes wide open. The humming had stopped. From then on, Dana kept noticing the little things. Abby's handwriting was perfect, though she'd always been sloppy. Her favorite food changed overnight. She hated tomatoes before camp. Now she wanted them at every meal. She didn't flinch when the dog barked in her face. Didn't scream when she saw a spider. Didn't ask to watch cartoons or play games on her tablet. And she never called her mom mommy anymore. Only Dana. That's when Dana tried talking to the camp director. She drove up to Wren Hollow a week after drop-off had ended, but the camp was shuttered. No one was there. The website was still live, phone number disconnected. Emails bounced back. What's worse, she ran into another mother, and Calloway, at the diner in town, who'd also sent her son to the same session, and was pale, jittery, couldn't stop staring at the creamer swirling in her coffee. She said her boy came back too quiet, too calm, and he wouldn't sleep in his old bed. Said the corners of the ceiling whispered when the lights were off. Dana asked her if she thought the camp had done something to them, and said she didn't think they had done anything. She said she thought something else came back. The night Dana tried to film Abby sleeping was the night everything broke. She set up her phone in the hallway, cracked the door open just enough to get a good angle. Then she waited in the living room. Around 2:43 a.m., she heard a voice. A man's voice. Not loud, not aggressive, just low and steady like it was reciting something. When she played the footage back, you could hear it clearly. But there was only Abby in the frame, sitting cross-legged on the bed, smiling at the camera, saying nothing. The voice wasn't coming from her mouth. It was underneath the sound. She showed the footage to a friend from work, audio engineer. He tried isolating the track, cleaning it up, but when he did, the voice disappeared completely. Every time, as if it didn't exist unless you heard it raw. And even then, it left you sick. Dana started locking her bedroom door at night. Not because she was scared. At least, that's what she told herself. But because she once woke up and found Abby standing just outside her room, staring at the keyhole. The kid didn't say a word, just turned and walked back to her room like nothing had happened. It all came to a head the morning Dana saw the drawing. Abby had left it on the fridge like kids do, magnet right between the grocery list and an expired coupon for frozen pizza. It looked innocent at first. Stick figures, trees, a big smiling sun. But the longer she stared at it, the more she saw. There were two Abbies drawn in the picture. One had a pink dress and brown pigtails. The other had black scribbles where the face should be. And between them, a hand, long and thin, coming down from the sky. That's when Dana finally called the police. But there was no crime, no injury, Just a mother saying her kid didn't feel like her kid anymore. They sent a social worker. She stayed for an hour, asked a few questions, left smiling. Said Abby was the most well-behaved child she'd ever evaluated. That night, Dana left the house and didn't come back. I wish that was the end of the story. But the part that sticks with me, the part that made Derek bring it up in the first place, is what happened after Dana left. The house sat empty for months. Until one night, the neighbors saw a light in Abby's room. And someone humming. The house was supposed to be vacant. After Dana left, the property was listed as pending investigation, though no one ever explained what kind of investigation. The neighbors said it was probably a custody thing, but I've worked around law enforcement long enough to know that when nobody files paperwork, it usually means they don't want a record of what they found. Still, people notice things. At first, it was just lights turning on by themselves. The upstairs bedroom window glowing faintly around midnight, then going dark. Then came the motion lights, the ones outside that triggered whenever something passed by. They'd flicker at random intervals like someone was pacing back and forth on the lawn. But the cameras never caught anything. One neighbor, Mr. Kenner, said he called animal control after hearing a low growl under his porch one night. They told him it was probably a raccoon, but he said it didn't sound like any raccoon he'd ever heard. It was too deep, too slow, like it had vocal cords. Then the smell started. People described it differently. Some said it was like burnt hair. Others swore it smelled like wet copper. One guy, an old vet, said it reminded him of when the morgue refrigerator went down on base and a body sat for 2 days in August heat. Whatever it was, it came and went, drifted through the air like a storm that never broke. And it always seemed worse near the old Monroe house. But the thing that made people finally talk, really talk, was the girl in the window. Multiple neighbors, over the course of 2 weeks, said they saw a small figure standing at Abby's old bedroom window. They didn't all describe her the same way, which you'd expect with stories like this. But there were consistencies. The figure never moved, never blinked, and she always had that smile. That damn smile. Wide and straight and wrong. Mrs. Baird from across the street finally called the sheriff's office after seeing the figure 3 nights in a row. She swore the girl's eyes glowed faintly, even when the room was dark. She said they looked like glass marbles with something swirling behind them. Deputies came out, knocked on the door. No response. They didn't find forced entry. Didn't even open an investigation. Just left a note for the property manager and called it a day. A week later, someone broke in. Or maybe they were lured in. That part no one can prove. The local paper ran a small story about a break-in gone wrong. Said a man named Paul Lemming, 42, was found in the upstairs hallway, covered in scratches. Deep ones, some down to the bone. He was found unconscious, muttering about voices in the ceiling and the mirror that blinked. EMTs said he was dehydrated, hypothermic, even though the house wasn't cold. And here's the part that got buried. He'd taken out all the mirrors in the house. Smashed every one, even the one in the medicine cabinet. But he didn't take anything else. Not the TV, not the appliances, not Dana's jewelry. Just broke in and destroyed every reflective surface he could find. The police tested him for drugs. Nothing. No alcohol either. Just trauma. Psychological and physical. He was committed to a facility in Albany and hasn't said a coherent word since. I'd be tempted to write it off as a fluke, except there's one more detail. When they found him, he was clutching something. A photograph. An old Polaroid of a little girl in a camp t-shirt. Big smile, missing tooth. And a date scribbled on the back, July 9th, 2021, last day of camp. The girl in the photo looked exactly like Abby. But here's the thing. Dana swore she never took that picture. And the shirt. That design wasn't from Wren Hollow. It was from another camp. One that burned down in 1983. They did some digging. That camp's name was Black Creek Hollow. You won't find much about it online. The records were lost in the fire. But a few forums have pieced together survivor stories. They say it wasn't the fire that shut the place down. It was the disappearances. 4 kids went missing the same summer. No trace. No remains. Just gone. And one detail connects them all. Every one of them had drawn pictures of the mirror people before vanishing. And that's when it started to click. Abby didn't come back alone. She came back inhabited. There's a theory, a creepy one, buried in the weirder parts of the internet, that some campgrounds, especially ones built on old forest routes, aren't just places for kids to play. They're thin places. Boundaries. points where this world and another one bleed together. Wren Hollow, Black Creek Hollow, doesn't matter the name. The shape of the land stays the same. The theory says that every once in a while, a child gets chosen. Not taken, chosen. Because children are adaptable. They don't question things the way adults do. They accept strange rules if you give them a smile and a bedtime story. And once the child allows the thing in, there's no pushing it out again. Only one person tried. Dana. The forums say she didn't just run away. She went looking for the thing. Said she wanted to make a trade. Her life for her daughters. The last anyone heard, she'd taken a ferry up Lake George. Her car was found near a hiking trail. One used mostly by hunters. The kind of trail with old cabins at the end. Some still standing. Others not so much. They never found her. But weeks later, the Monroe house sold. Cheap. And now a new family lives there. Couple from Poughkeepsie. With a daughter. She plays outside a lot. Doesn't talk much. Always wears sunglasses, even on cloudy days. And I swear last Tuesday when I drove by for work, she turned and looked right at me. And smiled. They say Camp Wren Hollow burned down 10 years ago. That's what the county records show anyway. A lightning strike. Faulty wiring. Some combination of nature and neglect. The camp was declared a loss, the land deemed unsafe, and the insurance company paid out the owners. But the thing is, there's no scorch marks. No ashes. No remains of cabins or mess halls. Because the camp never burned down. It moved. That's the part people don't want to talk about. It's not that it disappeared. It's that it shifted. Like a wound that closes over, only to split open somewhere else. I didn't believe it either, until I saw the map. A guy named Travis sent it to me. Used to be a wildlife surveyor in Ulster County. He ran motion sensor checks and terrain scans for the state. Had access to aerial imagery that never made it into public databases. Said he started noticing an odd patch of forest that didn't register correctly. Too symmetrical. The trees were arranged in a near-perfect grid, unnatural for that area. And right in the center was a clearing. Circular. Roughly the size of a soccer field. No trail leading to it. No road. Just forest, then nothing. He went out there once. Only once. Didn't take pictures. Said the equipment kept glitching. Batteries drained. GPS wouldn't lock. When he finally reached the clearing, he found stone markers. Not tombstones, markers. Flat, circular slabs, half buried in moss. Each had a single carved symbol in the center. One of them, he said, looked like an eye. Another like an open mouth. And one of them had a handprint. A small one. He didn't stay long. Said it felt like the forest was breathing. Like it didn't want him there. On his way out, he heard someone humming behind him. He ran 3 miles before he stopped. And when he turned around, there was no one there. Travis quit his job 6 days later. Started working nights at a warehouse. Doesn't talk to anyone anymore. The thing that sticks with me is what he said just before he signed off the call. It's not a camp. It never was. It's a mirror. That line stayed with me. I started digging deeper, finding mentions of Wren Hollow and Black Creek Hollow in old news clippings, blog posts, even church newsletters. And over again, there was one recurring phrase. A place where children learn who they truly are. But what if that's not what they meant? What if it's not about self-discovery? What if it's replacement? Think about it. Summer camps are perfect for this kind of thing. Kids are isolated, parents are far away. Everyone expects them to come back changed. Older, more mature, more independent. It's the perfect cover. You can swap out a kid, and no one would notice, because they're supposed to be different. But Dana noticed. She noticed because she paid attention, because she knew her daughter in ways most parents don't. She noticed the small shifts, the quiet pauses, the hollow moments that didn't make sense. And that's why she had to go back. I tracked down a guy who used to run supply drops to Wren Hollow. Said his name was Carl. Drove a white panel van and dropped off dry goods once a month during camp season. He claimed the people who ran the camp were off. Always polite, always smiling, but never asked questions. Never made conversation. One year he dropped off a crate of canned peaches and noticed they were stocking triple the amount of food compared to previous seasons. When he asked about it, one of the counselors said, "Sometimes they eat more when they're new." Carl never went back. Said he started having dreams after that. Dreams about narrow halls lined with mirrors, and children standing perfectly still, humming. But here's the part that chilled me. He said one of those kids looked like his niece, and she died in 2004. I asked if he thought it was a hallucination. He said no. He said it looked like her now. Not as she was, but as she would be 17 years older. That's when I started thinking about time. Not just space. What if these places don't just pull from the world we know? What if they pull from when we exist, too? What if the thing in the woods doesn't just steal identities, but remakes them, stretching across time and bloodlines? Maybe that's why they come back so perfect. Because they've been made from the echoes of 100 others. And it would explain why Abby, or whatever came back as Abby, seemed too flawless. Too polite. Too refined. It wasn't that she grew up overnight. It was that something else had been practicing. Practicing being human. Dana's last recorded message, the one she left on a voicemail to her sister, said something strange. Almost incoherent. She sounded scared, but calm. Like someone who'd seen something so vast, she could no longer panic. She said, "They don't steal faces. They grow them, layer by layer, until it fits." Then the line went dead. No one's heard from her since. But there's one final piece, one last thread that made all of this feel real. 3 weeks ago, someone posted a video online. It didn't last long. Got taken down within the hour. But I saw it. It was shot in the woods. No context. Just a shaky camera, a heavy breathing operator. Then, for a moment, the camera steadies. And in the frame is a girl, maybe 10 years old, wearing a Camp Wren Hollow shirt, standing in the center of a circle of stones. And around her, 12 other children, all identical, all Abby. Dana Monroe parked her car half a mile from the trailhead. There were no signs, no gate, no warning markers. Just a narrow stretch of earth barely distinguishable from the trees around it. She left her phone in the glove box, along with her ID and credit cards, and stepped into the forest with only a backpack and a flashlight. That was 6 months ago. No one saw her again, but the trail cam did. The State Wildlife Service had installed a handful of hidden motion cameras to monitor black bear migration near the Catskills. Most of the footage was mundane. Deer, rain, wind pushing through branches. But one camera, Unit B23, caught something different. On March 17th at 3:02 a.m., Dana appears. She walks straight into frame, calm, composed. No signs of confusion or fear. Just determination. The footage goes grainy for a few seconds. Interference that technicians couldn't explain. But when it clears, she's still there. Behind her, though, something's changed. It looks like a tear in the trees. A ripple of dark space where the trunks no longer line up, as if part of the forest has been overwritten. Dana stops, turns toward it, and steps through. Then she's gone. That's not the part that scares me. The part that scares me is what happens next. At 3:07 a.m., a second figure walks into frame. A girl, small, maybe 10, wearing a nightgown, barefoot. She stands exactly where Dana stood, looking straight into the lens of the camera. And then she smiles, wide and empty, and walks backwards into the trees. That girl wasn't Abby, and she wasn't human. The footage was flagged internally, marked as corrupted and shelved. But one of the junior rangers leaked it to a Reddit thread under the username echo_mirror_23. He only posted once. Said he wasn't supposed to be reviewing camera logs, but was filling in for a sick co-worker. His post ended with a warning. If anyone you know came back from Camp Wren Hollow and doesn't blink normally, leave the house. I know that sounds stupid, but when I watched the video again, and I've watched it dozens of times, I noticed something. The girl in the footage never blinks. Not once. Not even when the night wind picks up and dust swirls into her eyes. And her pupils don't dilate. They just stay fixed, like painted dots. Watching. Recording. It made me wonder, what did Dana see when she went through that ripple? What was on the other side? I think the answer lies in the old cabin. About a month after Dana vanished, 2 hikers got turned around trying to reconnect with the Devil's Path trail. They went off course by at least 3 miles, and they stumbled on something that hadn't been marked on any map. A single cabin, 1 room, unfinished wood, no electricity, but someone or something had been living there. There was food, fresh bedding, a stack of notebooks, but no Dana. They turned in the notebooks to the sheriff's office, and someone uploaded scanned copies online. Most of the pages were scribbles, frantic repetition of phrases like, "It doesn't wear her face, it wears her memory. Every time she smiles, I remember less." They feed it through love, through recognition. Some of the pages are pure ink, solid black, like Dana ran the pen dry trying to drown out what she'd written. But one entry stands out. It's dated 2 days after she entered the woods. I tried speaking to her today. Not the copy, the real one. She's still here. Somewhere. I saw her reflection in the stream. It blinked when the other one didn't. But when I called her name, the reflection looked scared, like it didn't want me to see it. I don't think they control her. I think they trap her. And the more I look at the copy, the more I forget how my daughter used to laugh. It's fading. She's fading. I have to break the mirror. I have to shatter it. That phrase, break the mirror, keeps coming up in all the places this story intersects. In posts from people claiming to have lost someone to Wren Hollow. In graffiti scratched into trees near abandoned hiking trails. Even on a voicemail from a state trooper who went missing last year after following up on a sighting in Greene County. His last recorded words, "It's not a camp. It's a reflection waiting to be believed." And that's what really makes this horrifying. Because belief is the key. If a parent believes the thing is their child, if they accept it, feed it, love it, it becomes real. It strengthens. It learns. And the real child, the one trapped on the other side, grows fainter with every bedtime story and bowl of cereal. Dana tried to resist. But she was only one voice. And belief is a collective thing. That's why it spreads. It's not just about the girl. It's about how easily we surrender to the version of someone we want back. How quickly we make peace with the smile, even when it doesn't quite reach the eyes. How we forgive the quiet changes because we need them to still be ours. But sometimes they're not. Sometimes, what we're tucking into bed isn't a child. It's a shadow, a mimic, an echo that waits to be let in. No one expected the Monroe's house to sell again. After Dana disappeared, after the sightings, the humming, the break-ins, after all that, you'd think no family would touch the place. But people are always looking for deals. And trauma depreciates property faster than rot or termites. The new owners, the Lamberts, were from Poughkeepsie. Married couple, civil engineer and an elementary school teacher. They had one daughter. Her name was Maya, 9 years old, brown hair, glasses, quiet. It didn't take long before the neighbors started noticing the signs again. Lights flickering on at odd hours. Long pauses when the girl was asked a question, like she was downloading the words. And the humming, always the humming, like the tune was buried in the walls and she just picked it up where the last one left off. But the worst was the night of the storm. The sheriff's report called it a structural power anomaly. That's official speak for the lights blew out. A lightning strike hit a transformer half a mile down the street. Everything went dark, and that's when the screaming started. The Lambert family never called 911. It was the neighbors again. Mrs. Baird across the street said she heard what sounded like multiple voices, children, dozens of them, all crying out at once. But she only saw one silhouette in the upstairs window. One child, standing perfectly still. When deputies arrived, the house was locked from the inside. No one answered the door. They were preparing to force entry when the front door creaked open on its own. They found Mrs. Lambert curled in the downstairs hallway, rocking back and forth, whispering something over and over. They had to sedate her. Her husband was upstairs, unconscious. Multiple lacerations across the arms and shoulders. They ruled it as a fall through the attic access, though there was no damage to the ceiling and no ladder pulled down. But the daughter, Maya, was the strange part. She was sitting in the bathtub, fully dressed, dry, smiling, and in her hand, she held a shard of mirror. When they asked where she got it, she didn't answer. She just placed it on the edge of the tub and said, "This is where she is now." They took her in for evaluation, naturally. She didn't speak for 3 days. Then one afternoon, she asked for a pencil and paper. She drew 2 girls. One had a mouth but no eyes. The other had eyes but no mouth. And between them, a door. When the psychologist asked her what it meant, Maya said, "Only one of them can leave." That line sent a chill through everyone in the room. And that's when I realized what the final phase of this story really is. It's not just about swapping. It's about trading. The thing in the forest, the thing behind the humming, the camp, the mimicry, it doesn't just steal. It offers a way to bring someone back, cleaner, better, more obedient. A child without tantrums or trauma. A child who never questions you. All you have to do is believe. But it comes with a cost. Because on the other side of the mirror, someone is still screaming. Still clawing to come back. And with every passing day, the door closes more. I spoke with one of the deputies who was at the scene. He said something he wasn't supposed to. Said there was a strange heat in the girl's room. like the air was warping, like it wanted to bend light. And when they went to take photos of the scene, none of the cameras worked. Not one. But the mirror shard? That showed up crystal clear. And in the reflection, there were two girls. Only one was Maya. The other was older. Wrong. Too tall. Skin too pale, smile too wide. And she was leaning just slightly closer to the lens. The photo has since been locked in evidence storage, marked as inconclusive, but the deputy made a copy. I saw it. I wish I hadn't. Because now, every time I see a child look back at me through glass, I wonder, just for a second, who's behind the eyes. I started checking the mirrors in my house more often. Nothing major, just little things. Making sure my reflection blinks when I do. Making sure it frowns when I frown. Making sure I never smile unless I feel it. Because what if that's how it gets in? Through a moment of weakness, of performance, of pretending to be okay. What if, in that second, something else decides to wear you? I keep the lights on at night now. I avoid the bathroom unless I absolutely have to. And I took the last picture I had of my niece and put it away. Not because I don't love her, but because I don't want to remember her wrong. Because remembering wrong, that's how it begins. They say Maya's doing better now. They say she's calm, well-behaved, sleeping through the night. But no one's seen her blink. And she still hums. There's a list no one talks about. Not a government list. Not law enforcement. This one's passed around in private forums, encrypted groups, places only accessible if you know someone who already knows. It's called the memory chain, and it tracks the children who didn't come back right. There are hundreds of names. No explanations. No accusations. Just names, ages, the camps they went to, and a brief note. Things like refuses to eat meat, no longer recognizes sibling, draws mirror symbols on foggy glass. And the final column, parent remembers? That's the one that matters most. Because once the parent forgets, the swap is permanent. You'd think something like that would be easy to disprove. DNA tests, birthmarks, dental records. But that's the thing. The mimic doesn't just copy the surface. It copies everything the parent believes. If you think your child had a scar on her wrist, the mimic will have one. If you think she hated broccoli, it'll gag at the smell. It doesn't become your child. It becomes your version of her. And over time, that version gets blurry, because we all rewrite people in our heads. Smooth out the flaws. Forget the bad days. When you do that to a memory of someone real, it's called nostalgia. But when you do it to something wearing your child's skin, it's called surrender. The people who manage the memory chain, they don't try to rescue the kids. Not anymore. That ended in 2013, when a family from Vermont burned down their entire house trying to exorcise the copy. All they did was kill themselves. The thing walked out unharmed. So now, the people on the chain just remember. That's the only defense left. Keep the memory sharp, exact, brutal if it has to be, because clarity is the only thing that stops the echo from replacing the original. There's a rule on the chain: never trust a child who hums at night. If you break it, you're removed. No second chances. I used to think it was paranoia, internet crazies chasing shadows, until my niece came back from Camp Wren Hollow. Yeah, it happened to me too. Her name was Ellie. Sweet girl. Creative. Wouldn't shut up about unicorns and cartoons. Before camp, she was nervous, begged her mom to let her stay home. Said the forest felt like glass. We all laughed it off. But the day she came back, she didn't say a word. Just walked off the bus, hugged her mom too tight, and smiled too wide. I saw it instantly. Her left ear used to bend forward slightly. She hated it, wore her hair down because of it. But now, her ears were perfect. Too perfect. And her voice, when she finally spoke, sounded like someone pressing play on a recording of her old voice. Not organic. Just copied. Her mom didn't see it. Said she was just tired. Said camp probably helped her confidence. That night, I heard the humming. Soft. Circular. Familiar. And then, beneath the hum, the sound of scraping. I followed it to the bathroom. The mirror was fogged from a shower she hadn't taken. And in the condensation, something had drawn a figure. A tall shape with no face and long, pointed fingers. The next morning, Ellie didn't remember doing it. She just smiled. That's when I joined the chain. I needed to know I wasn't alone. Turns out I wasn't. Turns out there are dozens of Wren Hollow kids on that list. Same year. Same camp session. Some came back as perfect angels. Others just sat in corners, blinking too little, sleeping too much. One drew a mirror in every notebook she was given. Another stared into a turned-off TV for 5 hours straight. The chain keeps them logged. We don't know what the creatures want. Some think they're scouts. Others believe they're some kind of feeding system, emotional parasites using memory and love as sustenance. But the most convincing theory I've read says it's not about feeding at all. It's about collecting. We're being archived. Our children are being studied, perfected, distilled into obedient echoes. And one day, when there are enough of them out there, they'll stop hiding. Because there won't be anyone left who remembers what the originals looked like. And here's the part that breaks me. My niece, the real Ellie, is still out there, somewhere behind the glass, screaming, clawing, trying to get home. And the longer I look at the copy sitting at our dinner table, the more I start to forget the pitch of her laugh, the way she used to mispronounce spaghetti, the way she used to call me Uncle B because she couldn't say my name right. The copy calls me by my full name now. Perfect diction. Never makes a mistake. And I hate it, but I can't say anything, because if her mom hears me, I'll be dismissed. Called paranoid, delusional. I'll lose what little access I have left. So I play along. I smile when she smiles. I read bedtime stories to something that isn't a child. And I keep the chain updated. Because someday, someone might figure out how to open the door from the other side. And if that day comes, I want Ellie to know I never forgot her. Not the real her. Not the crooked ear. Not the lisp. Not the girl who hated thunder but loved rain. Because remembering her, exactly as she was, might be the only way she ever comes home. So if you're listening to this, if your kid ever comes back from camp just a little too polite, if they hum a tune you've never heard before, if they smile in a way that makes your stomach turn, don't ignore it. Don't explain it away. And whatever you do, don't let them sleep near a mirror. That was today's story. If you made it this far, let me know what you thought in the comments. Also, tell me if you've ever heard of anything similar happening near where you live. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. There are plenty more chilling stories coming your way. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.